any homework to do, all right? Any homework to do during your mid-semester break. I didn't give it to any of you. So, but basically, we are going to have our next assessment next week, okay, which is in week 9. And because of that, okay, I'm going to share with all of you the weekly planner again, okay. And then after that, we are going to have a look at some general information that you need to know about SOP, because your next assessment will be about standard operating procedure, okay, the format, how to write it, and what are you supposed to put in your SOP, okay. And also after that, I will also share with you some examples of SOP according to the graphical procedure, okay, graphical procedure, and then flowchart, and also hierarchical procedure, okay. So I hope today in our lesson today, okay, after you have watched or look at the sample of the SOP, and then what you are supposed to put in for each of the element in the SOP template, you will have a clearer understanding about it, okay. And in the second meeting this week, okay, you can focus on finishing the activities, on writing the SOP. And then I will share with you the answers, and you can compare your answer with the answer given to you. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to share my screen with all of you. For your information, the slides that I'm going to share today, okay, it is not in Kalam, and you cannot access Kalam at this moment because of a technical glitch going on. So the person in charge is still working on it. Hopefully, it's going to be accessible as soon as possible. Okay. All right. So I am now sharing my screen with all of you. Let's have a look at the weekly planner. Okay, again, we are now in week 8. We are now in week 8. Okay, so now it's week 8. This week, we are supposed to have a look at the flowchart SOP. And for the flowchart SOP, normally you are going to use the yes or no question. Okay, so it means that when you have, okay, let me share with you. All right. So for flowchart, it's going to be like this. Okay, so for flowchart, it's going to be, okay, this is for flowchart. Your friends is trying to join in. Okay, right, this is for the flowchart. All right, so you're going to have the yes or no question. Yes or no. Okay, so it means that when it is yes, the arrow will bring you to somewhere. Okay, or like this. Okay, if it is no, right, so there is a possibility that the arrow will show you to be like this. So it means that you have to go back to the initial process. Okay, we can have a look at the example after this. Okay, and then we are also going to have a look at the hierarchical SOP. Hierarchical meaning that there are stages. Okay, there are stages for hierarchical SOP. Okay, meaning that there will be steps that you have to follow. Okay, so hierarchical step one. Okay, then you have step two, and the rest. Okay, so that is for hierarchical. And of course, the week before our mid-semester break, okay, we have a look at the graphic SOP. But I'm sure I have not discussed in detail about this with you, except that I have mentioned to you that for graphic SOP or the SOP, you are required to use imperatives, okay, because you are giving instruction. Okay, so remember to use imperatives when you are writing or when you are preparing for SOP, as you are asking the people to do something, to perform something. So to give instruction. Okay, so in this meeting, we are going to have a look at this sample of flowchart SOP, hierarchical SOP, as well as graphic SOP. Okay, but what we are going to have a look in the second meeting is more on the writing practices. Okay, writing practices. The activities you can get it in Kalam. Okay, hopefully after this you can go to Kalam. You can log into Kalam, and then you can get the exercises or the writing practice there. Okay, and then in the second meeting as well, I'm going to give you the briefing on the second self-access activity, which is taken or which is going to be conducted using F-site platform. Okay, so once I have given you the instruction in the second meeting, then you can proceed doing the self-access activity. Okay, so this is for week 8. Just to give you a teaser of what you're going to have next week. Okay, so next week we are going to have the listening strategies. Okay, next week we are going to have the listening strategies. So before listening, while listening, and after listening, and then I will give you some input about the listening practice. Okay, especially for your next assessment, assessment 2B. Okay, which will be conducted in the second meeting, assessment 2B. Right, it is going to be a listening test. Okay, so what kind of questions that you are going to have? Okay, and then how many sections will be involved for the listening test? And then at the same time, you are going to sit for your assessment 2A, which is reading SOP, and it is going to be a pair work. So by now, you should decide who will be your partner for your assessment 2A, which is reading SOP. Okay, right. Next week as well for the second meeting, you are going to submit the FSAT certificate. So once you go to FSAT, the website, right, you are going to do the self-access activity. And then after you have completed the activity, you're going to be given the certificate. So please save the certificate because there are two parts that you need to complete. Okay, part A and part B for the self-access activity. And then please save the certificate, and you need to attach it later in our Google Classroom. Okay, so that is about what we are going to have for the remaining weeks on process and procedure. Okay, do you have any question, class? Do you have any question?
Sir, 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 can you hear me? The assessment, can we just macam just like we do on the SAA one ke sir?
Yeah, yes.
We can do many
Yes,
trial many
yes,
time.
you can do it many times. So you are given one whole week, okay, starting from the second meeting this week until next week, okay, to complete it. You can do as many times as you want, up until you are satisfied with the marks.
Alright sir, thank
All
you.
right, okay. So that will be the weekly planner and also the explanation regarding your self-access activity 2 and also your assessment 2A and assessment 2B. Okay, all right. So let's have a look at this slide today. So this is on SOP general format. All right, so this is on SOP general format. Let me get the right. Okay. So today we are going to look at the general format of SOP. So what are the things that you need to include in the SOP? Okay, what are the things that you need to include in the SOP? Right. So how to write a technical SOP? Okay, how to write a technical SOP? Remember that you are going to have two types of SOP. Okay, you are going to have two types of SOP. Get this thing and first, right again. Okay, so we are going to look at the SOP general format. All right, and then remember that you have two types of SOP. There are two types of it. One is technical, another one is administrative SOP. So in your context, okay, we are going to focus only on technical SOP. Okay, so as you can see over here, an organization will have its own format for SOP. Okay, so as I have mentioned to you earlier, when we are into the new chapter, the new topic on process and procedure, okay, especially about SOP. So when you're going to start working later on, your company will have their own standard, will have their own format. Okay. But what we are teaching you here actually, right, we are teaching you on the aspect of writing for the technical SOP. Okay, so basically the format, the standard will be a bit different from the one that we are going to share with you. But basically the component, okay, the contents for each of the component will be the same. Okay, so what you're going to fill in or what you're going to put for each of the component will be the same, though that the layout, the format, or the standard will be a bit different. Okay, right. So this is going to be number one that is going to appear on your SOP. So you're going to have the reference number. Okay, you're going to have the date. Okay, you're going to have the reference number, you're going to have the date, and you're going to have the page number. So this is going to be very basic things that you are going to have for SOP. Okay, so for the reference number, the date, and the page number, right, it will be put in a box, okay, and written at the top on the upper right hand corner of every page of the SOP. So we are going to have the sample after this. You can have a look at it. So normally it is put in a box, okay, and then it is written on the right hand corner, your right hand corner of every page of the SOP. So let's say there are 10 pages for the SOP, for example. So each page will have this. Okay, each page will have this. Okay, so the reference number is for filing and record purposes. Okay, so let's say your company will have like many SOP. So for this purpose, okay, in order for you to file it and also for the record purpose, you are going to have the reference number. Okay, so maybe the first three words in the beginning will represent certain SOP. For example, okay, it depends on the SOP or the procedure that you're going to conduct. Okay, so this will be different depending on the project. Okay, different project will have different reference number. The department in charge of the project and also the organization. Okay, so as I have mentioned to you earlier, so your company will have their own standard and then the format will be a bit different. So you need to just adjust it accordingly. Okay, right. So the date refers to the date the SOP is written. Okay, so let's say you don't have SOP yet. Okay, there is no SOP yet in the company. So you are asked to prepare one. So you are going to write the date that you are preparing the SOP. Okay, and then if there are any changes or revisions made to the SOP, remember there are certain conditions whereby you are going to change the SOP a bit. Okay, you are going to amend the content. Okay, maybe because of the material that you are using or the machines that you are using. So the date written should follow the date the information is revised. Okay, so let's say, right, today is on the 26th of April, so you are required to write the SOP. Okay, and then after a month, for example, okay, your company, okay, the company that you are working with, all right, buy a new machine. So because of that buying, okay, so there is a need for you to change the SOP. So you are going to update the content and the same time the date of the SOP should be changed to the date that you do the correction or the amendment, right? And then lastly, the page number of the SOP should follow accordingly, especially if the SOP consists more than one page. Okay, how does it look like? Right, so this is the example. Okay, so you have this, the title, standard operating procedure. Okay, and then the procedure or reference number. And then what is the reference number? Remember, different division, okay, different SOP will have different reference number. Okay, and then original effective date, okay, let's say 20th June 2011, and then you have the revised effective date, okay, 20th June 2012. Right. So let's say if in the question for assessment 2A, okay, reading SOP, if it is not stated there that it is a revised version or not, okay, if it is not stated at all, then you just need to write date 20th June 2011, for example. Okay, but if you're reading the situation, okay, if you're reading the what do you call it, the situation given to you, and then if it is stated there, right, that the date of the original SOP was on this day, and then it was revised for the first time on this particular date, then you have to do like this. Okay, you have to do like this. All right. So it depends on the context or the situation given to you for assessment 2A. Okay. And then this is also one of the most important thing that normally your seniors forgot to put it. Okay, page number. If the SOP consists of more than one pages, so you need to write it like this: page 1 of 2. So when you go to the second page, your answer should be page 2 out of 2. Okay, so if you go to the second page, so it's going to be page 2 of 2. Okay, if there are 3 pages, so if you go to the first page, it is going to be page 1 of 3. Okay, second page, page 2 of 3, and then the rest it goes. Okay, do not forget about this. Okay, just to let you know, for assessment 2A, you are given, okay, 6 days to complete the task. So you have enough time, okay, to look thoroughly again at the task given to you, the assessment, and then please double check about this thing. Okay, so please make sure, if in the situation it's stated about the reference number, so you just need to follow the reference number given in the situation. If it is not stated, then you can just create your own reference number. And these things must appear, okay, these things must appear in the SOP for each of the page. On top right hand corner or upper right hand corner of the page, you need to have this box, which consists of the reference number, the date, and also the page number. So this is the beginning of your SOP. Okay. All right, so the title. So the title should be written at the top center of the page. Okay, so it should be written at the top center of the page. Where is it? So it's going to be over here. So this is going to be your title. Okay, so top center of the page. The phrase standard operating procedures should precede the title of the procedures. For example, okay, standard operating procedures of transferring liquid chemicals. Okay, so when you're going to write the title for the assessment, okay, or later on when you're going to start working, you use the word of, not for. Okay, and do not forget to include the standard operating procedures which come earlier than you have the procedure itself. Okay, so in this context, number one, standard operating procedures, remember of, okay, transferring liquid chemicals. So this is your procedure, okay, transferring liquid chemicals. Okay, the second example given here, assembling the computer hardware. So this is the situation or the task given to you. So how to write the title? You're going to put, or you're going to write it, standard operating procedures of assembling the computer hardware. Okay. Number three, standard operating procedures of repairing faulty electrical circuit. Okay. For the assessment, for your information, if you miss any of these particular information for the title, you are not going to be given any marks for the title. So, okay, for the format, all right, of course, you're going to have the reference number, the date, and the page number, the title and such. But if you miss any of these, then no marks will be given to you. Okay, right. So the title should be clear that anyone who reads it will immediately understand what the procedures are likely to be. Okay, for assessment to A, right, you are given time to use your Microsoft Word. Okay, because the template will be given to you. So please make sure for the title, okay, you put it in bold like this. Okay, look at the example given here. So please put it in bold like this so that the others, okay, especially me, I can read it. So later on, when you're going to start working, you should do the same, whereby you highlight or you put it in bold so that when people have a look at the SOP, they know what you are trying to say. Okay, so we're going to skip activity one, right? You can do it on your own later on. Okay, next, in the template, you're going to have the department or the unit. Okay, right? You're going to have the department or the unit. So the unit or department in which the SOP is responsible needs to be identified. Okay, so the focus of the procedures need to be stated, which is basically the title of the SOP, but it is more specific. Okay, so the focus of the procedures. What are the procedures? So in this previous context, the procedure, okay, number one, for example, transferring liquid chemical. That is the procedure. Okay, so you need to highlight it, right? But the title should be more specific. Okay, standard operating procedure of transferring liquid metal, for example. Okay, right. For example, this SOP, okay, in the department or unit, okay, you have to write it like this. This SOP has been written for the research and development laboratories transfer of the hydrofluoric acid. Okay, so for the department or unit component in the SOP, you are supposed to write it like this. So this SOP has been written for the research and development laboratories transfer of the hydrofluoric acid. So what is the procedure? Transfer, okay, of the hydrofluoric acid. That is the procedure. Okay, who it is for the research and the development laboratory. So that is the department or the unit. Okay, right. So let's skip activity two. Okay, what is the purpose? Why are you preparing the SOP? So there are three parts. Okay, there are three parts to the purpose of the SOP. So number one is going to be the aim or the function of the SOP. Who will be the specific audience, the targeted audience, okay? What are the regulatory standards or the safety measure that they have to follow, okay? So the most important is the aim and the other two are optional. So you just need to make sure that you have at least the aim of the SOP. Why you have the aim of the SOP? So what is it about? Okay, so let's say here, number one, the example, the purpose of this SOP is to provide instructions for the safe use of 50% sulfuric acid to prevent spills, harmful vapors, and injury to the worker and environment. So what is the aim of you creating the SOP? So as you can see in the example here, okay, so basically it is to provide, okay, it is to provide instructions for the safe use of 50% sulfuric acid, okay, to prevent spills, harmful vapors, and injury to the worker and environment. Okay, right. Example number two, this SOP tells how to safely use 50% acetone, okay, to prevent injury from vapors or environmental damage. Okay, so that is the aim. Remember, for the purpose, you need to put the aim. That is a must. Okay, and the other two are optional. Okay, if you don't have it, never mind, no problem. But make sure that you have the aim or the purpose of the SOP. Okay, right? And then number three here, this SOP explains how to prepare instructions for nurses coming in onto the next shift. Okay, so that is the purpose. Okay, we're going to skip activity 3. Right, next, okay, the next component, the person who can perform the job. Okay, so remember that SOP, it is meant for procedure, okay, or for people who will be performing the procedure. So in this context, for the component, you need to state who will be eligible or entitled to do the job. Okay, so people who will perform or has performed the job. So the SOP is for those who will be doing the job or for the people who has done the job. Okay, meaning that, okay, over here they have done it before, and then they can refer back to the SOP so that they can follow the procedure correctly. Okay, or who will perform, meaning that they have not done the job yet. It is going to be their first time doing it, and by following the SOP, they can reduce the percentage or the possibility of having any accidents. Okay, right. Number two, people who work together on a job or anybody related with the task. Okay, the engineers, technicians, maintenance or equipment personnel. Okay, so the SOP can also be for a group of people performing the task. Okay, let's say in your team there are engineers, there are technicians, and also there are maintenance personnel. Okay, they have three. You have three groups of people working with you for the job. Okay, so the SOP. Okay, all these three group of people can refer to the SOP. Okay, SOP is also for those who will be supervising other people doing the job. Okay, let's say you are going to be the person in charge to supervise the task. So you can refer to the SOP to make sure that the person performing the task really follow the SOP from one until the end of it, from number one until the end of it. Okay, all right. So safety and health officer. Okay, let's say if you have a visit from the safety and health officer, they just come to the site and check about your task. Okay, whether you follow the safety procedures and such, and of course you're going to have the SOP. So you're going to give these to your to the safety and health officer, and then they can check whether you are performing the task by following the SOP that you have there. Okay, and lastly, the SOP can also be for technical writers. Okay, so in case any one of you are going to write it in a proper form, okay, proper documentation, so you are going to refer to the SOP. Okay, we are going to skip activity 4. Okay, now let us have a look at the equipment and tools. Okay, equipment and tools needed. Okay, equipment or tools needed. Number one, it is going to be the PPE, personal protective equipment. All right, like when handling COVID cases, okay, those working at the hospital, they have to use the personal protective equipment, 3 layers of it, or maybe 5 layers of it. Okay, they're going to put on the plastic apron. Okay, they are going to use the rubber glove. They are going to use the face shield. They are going to use the face mask. Okay, so that will be the personal protective equipment. So PPE are the tools that the person to work on the job must wear in order to ensure that he is bodily protected. Okay, for example, if you are working at the construction site, so you're going to wear the safety helmet, okay, and then you're going to wear the visibility jacket, okay, the reflector, the one with the reflectors, and you're going to wear the safety shoes. Okay, so each SOP will cater different venue. Okay, let's say if you're working at the construction site, these are the PPE that you have to wear. If you're working in the chemical lab, so these are the PPE that you have to wear. Okay, so the PPE should be listed carefully by identifying the correct types. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, according to the job that you are going to perform. Okay, so if you're going to handle corrosive kind of chemical substances, So maybe your PPE is going to be more compared to if you're going to just perform a very simple task without involving any corrosive materials. Okay. Right, for the tools, okay, for the tools here, right, any equipment or tools, be it in liquid or solid form, which are needed in order to carry out the job. Okay, so as you can see over here, when you are talking about PPE, when you are talking about PPE, it's going to be very simple. We are actually referring to the human, you yourself. Okay, what are you going to need? Okay, for the tools is actually for you to perform the task. Okay, when you're going to perform the task, right, you need these tools. Okay, right. Sometimes it is necessary to include the safety precautions when handling the tools. Okay, so first you're going to list what are the tools needed to perform the task, and then at the same component, okay, under tools, you can also highlight what are the safety precautions that the person need to follow. Okay, so again, it goes back to the situation that you are going to have for assessment 2A. If it is stated there, all right, what are the tools needed and what are the safety precautions that you have to take attention at? So you need to list it in your template. Okay, reference materials here for reference material. So it's going to be any sort of reading or reference materials that can be suggested or that has been referred to when the SOP was written. Okay, for example, right, when you are asking people to read the SOP to perform the task, and then you want them to read this regulation, okay, maybe like different manuals, for example, in the reference materials, you need to state it. Okay, or for example, this task should be performed with this manual, specific manual, the name of the manual, for example. Okay, or if it is given in the situation for assessment to A, let's say the reference materials, okay, it is given in the, or it is stated in the situation, so you need to write it back in the reference materials component. Okay, so please read the situation carefully. Okay, no on nothing on activity 5, and that's it about things that you need to know on SOP. Okay, any question, class? Class,
So far, no, Doctor. Yes, sir.
all right. How about the others? Thank you, Iqbal. How about the others? Do you have any question, guys?
No, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you still there? All right. Okay. Yeah, so far so good. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. So now we are going to have a look at some examples, okay, of graphic operating procedures, okay, standard operating procedures. And then we're going to have a look at the flowchart and also then the hierarchical sample. Okay. So you can also have a look at this kind of example in our Kalam platform. Okay. Right, so let's have a look at the graphic operating procedure here. Okay, so this is the graphic operating procedure. Right, the procedure before alignment. So these are the steps that you need to follow to perform the task. Okay, equipment preparation, during alignment, and then after alignment. Okay, right. So what are the tasks for each of the component here? Let's say before alignment. So you have two tasks listed there. So ensure the lab is secured and mark the laboratory's door with the notice sign. So you are going to write it like this. Okay, and you are going to put the image or the picture or the illustration that can somehow, okay, tell people this is what you are preparing for. Okay, so this is what you are preparing for. Preparing for the graphic operating procedure. Okay, and for your information, assessment 2A, okay, you are going to prepare the graphic operating procedure. So the situation will be given to you, all right? based from that situation, you are going to write your own SOP. And for each of the tasks, for example here, okay, step number one, before alignment, you need to list all of the procedure that the person, okay, performing the task need to follow. And then you need to find any pictures, any illustration, any images from the internet, or on your own, for example, and then you put it there. Okay, so for before alignment here, for example, you're going to have one picture. Okay, laser alignment in progress. Do not enter eye protection required. So let's say this is notice. Okay, a signboard that you're going to put on the door. So you're going to put it here. Okay, all right. Then equipment preparation. So you need to name the equipment. What are the equipment or the tools needed? Okay, and then you need to locate the equipment. And then ensure all equipment is in good condition. So over here, okay, at the blank space there, all right. So you can put what are the equipments needed. Okay, during alignment, use the buddy system when performing alignments or let someone else know your location. So you can find, okay, let's say there are 5 steps that you have to follow here or procedures that you have to follow here. So you need to put in all of the images, okay, or maybe one image that somehow sum up the whole procedures that you're going to explain for this component on during alignment. Okay, right. Next, you have after alignment here. Okay, the last or the final procedure. So you have the procedures listed. Then you are going to put the image. Okay, so this is on graphic operating procedure. Okay, next, let's have a look at the flowchart. Uh, Flowchart standard operating procedure. Okay, so this is the content. Okay, this is actually the SOP. Okay, this one is supposed to be at the center of the page, not like this. Okay, all right. So the reference number 2/11. Okay, so if it is given to you, you have to keep it in the SOP or in the template. If it is not given to you, then you can just create it. So date, okay, this is how you're supposed to write it. And then page number 1 of 3. Okay, so the title, standard operating procedure for testing the performance of a new car. So what is the procedure? Testing the performance of a new car. Okay, so that is the procedure. So department or unit, this SOP has been written for quality control department. Okay, so for the graphic operating procedures, like the one that I've shared with you earlier, okay, this part, it's going to be the same, except that when it comes to the procedures, you're going to have the images. So you're going to have the same box, the same template, but when it comes to each of the procedure, you're going to put in the images or the illustration. So that is for the graphic operating procedure. This one is for the flowchart operating procedure. So what is the purpose? It is stated here. Okay, who can perform this? Okay, QC operators or officer. And then equipment or tools needed. Right, PPE, tools, none. Okay, right, reference material. So this is the reference. Okay, and then others, you can click none if it is not stated there or if you cannot find any information related to it. Okay, so let's scroll down a bit. Right. Supposedly on the second page over here, all right, you're going to have the same box as appeared in the beginning of the SOP. Okay, so the same box here, all right, you're going to have it on the second page. Okay, it's going to be the same on the reference number. It is going to be the same on the date, but it will be a bit different for the page number because it is the second page. So it's going to be 2 of 3. Okay, so this is the flow chart. Okay, as you can see, you have the yes or no question here. Okay, all right, so start. Okay, remember flowchart, each shape brings different functions or role. So as you can see, a circle or cylindrical shape over here, meaning that it is the start, okay, and also the end, okay, the start and the end of the procedure. If it is a rectangle like this, okay, it's going to be the procedure, okay, and then if you put it in diamond shape like this, right, you are asking whether there is something going on. Okay, if the answer is yes, then you can put it to the next step. If the answer is no, then you can just proceed to the next step. Okay, and somehow sometimes, okay, if the answer is yes or no, or normally is the answer, if the answer is no, then maybe somehow, okay, the arrow will bring you back to the previous procedure. Okay, this is on a flowchart operating procedure. Okay, and then remember at the end of the SOP, okay, at the end of the SOP, right, you need to have the word prepared by. Okay, the word prepared by. Do not forget to put the signature and also the name of the person in charge on preparing it. Okay, so your name and your designation. Okay, QC engineer, your post, right? And then reviewed by, normally this is going to be your superior, your supervisor. Okay, the signature followed by the name and also the position in the bracket. And lastly, approved by the signature, okay, the name, and also the designation or the position. Okay, so this is the structure of a flowchart operating procedure. All right. The same goes for graphic operating procedures. You're going to have the same thing: prepared by, reviewed by, approved by, but how you deliver the content over here will be different for graphic operating procedure, because you're going to put it in boxes from left to right, and for each of the component you're going to have the images. So this is on flowchart, and this is how it is supposed to look like. Okay, right. So the last example, it is on hierarchical hierarchical operating procedure. Okay, same thing here: reference number, the date, and also the page number, the title. Okay, everything that we have discussed earlier. Okay, you can see it here. All right. So this is on the hierarchical procedure. Okay, hierarchical procedure, where, okay, you can have a look at the procedure being arranged according to the sequence. Number one, number two, number three, until the end of it. Okay, so this is the procedure, right? And then what are the procedures? Number one, number two, okay, number three, number four, until the end of it. And do not forget, you have to include the prepared by, reviewed by, and approved by. Okay, all right. So for hierarchical, it's going to be according to the sequence. For the flowchart, you have the yes or no kind of question. And for the graphic operating procedure, for each of the procedure, for each of the component, you are going to put the images or the illustrations, okay, that somehow represent of the procedure itself. Okay, right. If you're asking me for the assessment, okay, sir, can we get any of the images? Let's say if it is a picture or photo, or what do you call it, an emoticon, for example, or maybe like illustration, like cartoon illustration. Can we put it there? Yes, you can. Okay, so you can do the same. All right, but please do not forget to follow the format given to you. And remember, for assessment 2A, you are required to transfer the information into the graphic operating procedure. Right? So basically, I have shared with you three types of standard operating procedure. Number one is the graphic operating procedure. Number two is the flowchart operating procedure. And lastly, over here, we have the hierarchical operating procedure. Okay, right, class? So any question from you?
Sir, what is the maximum pages for the SOP normally?
Okay,
Is it better
so
for us to do longer description or just a shorter
okay,
description?
it depends on the situation given to you. All right. So it depends on the situation. Normally, it will be like 5 to 7 pages. Okay, it will be like 5 to 7 pages. So you're going to have the cover page, you're going to have the template, and then you're going to have the information. Okay. And for the assessment itself, you are going to have the references. I mean, where do you take the information from? Okay, and then you have to put it in Turnitin, if I'm not mistaken, to check the similarity index. Okay, and then remember, if you are taking the information from other sources, okay, you can use information from other sources as well, right? You have to put it in the citation, in the list of the references. Okay, where do you take the information from? Okay, so the number of pages, it can be from 5 to 7 pages. Okay, but once we are going to have a look at the instructions, okay, later on, so it's going to be more clearer there. Okay, so let's wait in the second meeting next week. Okay, after your listening test, all right, we are going to start discussing about the assessment 2A. Okay, so by after listening test, so I'm going to give you the briefing about assessment 2A, then you will have a clearer picture of what you are supposed to do. Okay, all right, any other question? Class, any other question?
Sir,
Yeah.
uh, once again, based on the examples that you given just now,
Mm-hmm.
I saw that the graphic SOP doesn't have the format. Is it we need to do like first we need to do the hierarchy or the flowchart, then we need to take the information and do graphic, or we only just do one type only?
Okay, all right. The sample that I have showed to you on graphic operating procedure, okay, the what do you call it? The only thing that is left, okay, that is not there is the format, the template. But basically, okay, graphic operating procedure, the flow chart, and also the hierarchical graphic operating procedure, it will come with the template. For the assessment itself, it will come with the template as well. Okay, and for the assessment, all right, since that you are required to follow the graphic operating procedure, so from the situation, you have to transfer it into the SOP. All right, you have to use only graphic operating procedure. Okay, so meaning that you cannot put flowchart before, okay, and then graphic operating procedure in the between, or the hierarchical at the end, or you have the flowchart, hierarchical, and then graphic. No, only graphic operating procedure only. Okay, so if you put other things, okay, which is not necessary, so the marks will be deducted. Okay, right.
Right, that's sir. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, Ikmal. Class, how about the others? Are you there? Or are you sleeping? Hi, class?
Still here, sir.
All right. You sound so tired. Didn't wake up during sahur?
Wake up, wake up.
Okay, you woke up. All right, great. Okay, so I believe and I hope that you have a clearer picture now of what you are supposed to get, okay, and prepared for your next assessment, okay. So there are three types of SOP. For assessment 2A is going to be, of course, graphic operating procedure. But in the future, all right, I've showed you some examples here. In the future, when you're going to start working, the company might require you to prepare the flowchart SOP. Okay, so you have the sample there. Okay, you can refer to the sample. The template, the standard, the layout may be different according to different company, different division, different department, for example. But again, the content will be the same. So whatever that we have teach you for the SOP part here, it is going to be very useful when you're going to start working later on. Okay, all right, and then for the activities, it is in Kalam as well. I believe I have asked you to have a look at it before you go off for your mid-semester break. Okay, and then most probably in our second meeting, I'm going to record myself. Okay, discussing about the answers, right? And I'm going to share it with you. Then you can check back whether you got it correct or not. Okay, so that will be about the second assessment, and I will update you as well okay, regarding the briefing for the self-access activity, the FSAT. Okay, I will let you know in advance what you are supposed to do and when you can start working on it. Okay, at this moment, you don't have to go it. You don't have to go to the FSAT platform yet. Okay, because we have not opened it until the second meeting. Okay, right. So if you don't have any other question, um, I believe that's all from me. Okay, the remaining 1 hour, right? You can go to Kalam. Okay, you can have a look at the sample of the activities, and then you can also have a look at the sample of the three SOP given to you, and then the PowerPoint slide. If it is not there, let me know, and then I will share with all of you in our WhatsApp group. Then you can read it on your own again. Yes, Ikmal. When the instruction for SOP assessment after your listening test. Your listening test will be conducted next week. This is week 8. Your listening test will be conducted next week. Okay, week 9. So after the listening test, you have to wait for a while, whereby I will be sharing with you the briefing part on the SOP assessment. Okay, assessment 2A. Assessment 2B, listening. Assessment 2A will be the reading part on the SOP. Okay, not this Wednesday. No. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording now. If you have any other question, you